You're not tired, you're dying slowly from emotions you buried 10 years ago. That's not just a bold metaphor. It's the hidden engine behind your exhaustion, your irritability, your sense of drifting through life without really living. Most of us grow up thinking the right thing is to be strong, to tough it out, to keep it all in. We think hiding our pain, fear, or anger means we're managing it. But here's the truth. The more you avoid your feelings, the more power they gather in the darkness. In 2019, scientists revealed that suppressing emotions isn't just about mood. It's linked to a greater risk of heart disease, chronic pain, and even dying younger, up to 50% higher. Imagine dying young, not from what happened to you, but because of what you never allowed yourself to feel. If you ever told someone you were fine while feeling like you were drowning inside, then this isn't just a video. It's about your life. By the end, you'll recognize the top 3 signs your body's carrying repressed emotions. You'll get a practical plan on how to release them, and you'll hear a truth most therapists won't say out loud. This won't be comfortable, but it might be the most important thing you watch all year. Let's be brutally honest, one moment, what are you really hiding right now? We start hiding our feelings young. So young, we forget how it began. Maybe you got told to stop crying, or watched someone you love numb themselves with a smile, while their eyes told a different story. One message floats above all. Don't be too much. Suppress sadness, swallow anger, block out fear, stay positive. Society hands out badges for handling everything alone, for putting others first, for never cracking under pressure. But here's a controversial point. This cult of emotional strength is actually a new form of weakness. We're raising generations taught to be emotionally fit, but more anxious, disconnected, and physically sick than ever. That's not evolution. That's slow emotional self-destruction dressed up as virtue. Scientists call the rules you learned early emotional conditioning. Every time you felt sad and were shamed, your mind learned that sadness is dangerous. If anger meant losing love, your subconscious wrote code, hide this or get hurt. It's why, decades later, your brain still tenses up around uncomfortable talks. It's why your heart pounds fast in pointless arguments, or you freeze when a conflict starts. And here's something most people miss. Suppressing emotions doesn't delete them. It simply tells your nervous system to store them more deeply. Imagine leaving 100 browser tabs open in your mind's background. Each emotion you ignore quietly drains your battery. You wonder why you're tired, unfocused, or emotionally numb. You're running on reserve. Pause and scan your body for a second. Do your shoulders hunch no matter how you adjust? Does your gut clench when you say, "I'm okay"? Does your neck feel like a coiled spring even when you're relaxing? This isn't random stress. This is emotion unpaid. The difference between people who thrive and people who barely survive often isn't about what happens to them. It's about whether they allow themselves to process what happens or whether they stuff it down and pretend it never existed. The second group looks fine on the surface, but underneath they're hemorrhaging energy, health, and joy. Bija, is any of this striking a nerve? Let's do a quick self-check. Think about these scenarios. Perhaps you find yourself always taking care of others, but remaining silent about your own struggles. Perhaps even on a good day, you feel drained for no apparent physical reason, especially after hours of holding it together at work or around family. Perhaps you continue to experience headaches, tension, or stomach trouble, despite doctors finding nothing amiss. Or perhaps you notice you snap at loved ones over trivial things, then feel guilty and confused about where that reaction came from. If you said yes to any of this, your real issue isn't laziness or poor health. It's emotional energy, old and unprocessed, still weighing you down. You're not weak. You're just carrying weight nobody can see. Think about it this way. If you went to the gym and lifted weights for 3 hours straight without rest, you'd expect to feel exhausted, right? Well, emotional suppression is like that, except you never put the weights down. You carry them 24/7, and you wonder why you can't sleep, why food doesn't taste right, why nothing excites you anymore. There's a core idea in psychology called the return of the repressed. It means anything you try to bury pulls double duty, trying to surface again, not always as memories, sometimes as moods, triggers, sharp pains, or sabotaging habits. Picture it, you're holding a beach ball underwater. Every muscle's straining, you think you're in control, but let your grip slip for a moment, and it explodes upward harder than before. That's how old anger comes out as irritation with people you love. That's how buried grief becomes numbness or fatigue. That's how fear can lead to overthinking, indecision, and avoidance. Take Emily's story. She was the strong sister until life broke the script. Migraine started, panic attacks wouldn't stop, and food lost its taste. Countless tests showed nothing, but when she finally spoke about her miscarriage, a story she'd shared with no one, not even her partner, her body began to loosen its grip on the pain. Her health didn't rebound overnight, but every honest conversation became a release. Small steps brought lightness, sometimes just for hours, but slowly that became her new normal. Emily told me later that the hardest part wasn't the pain itself. It was giving herself permission to admit the pain existed. She'd spent so long being the one who handles things that vulnerability felt like betrayal. But once she allowed herself to be human, to be imperfect, to be struggling, the weight she didn't know she was carrying started to lift. If you ever thought vulnerability is weakness, listen. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit you are not okay. Here's your shareable moment. Your body can't heal what you refuse to feel. Let's look at the science. Multiple long-term studies show that people who habitually repress emotion face higher rates of immune disorders, cardiovascular disease, and even an increased risk for some cancers. Cortisol, the stress hormone, stays elevated. Inflammation runs unchecked. Emotional numbing isn't just in your mind. It reshapes your DNA over the long haul. Here's the controversial bit, and not all suppression is bad. Some researchers argue that repression evolved to help us survive temporary threats or trauma. If you needed to get through war, loss, or critical moments, shutting down was a protective mechanism. The problem isn't that you ever repressed. The problem is when you forget to turn that survival mode off. It's when suppression becomes your default setting, your only tool, your permanent state. Think of it like a fire alarm. In an emergency, you need it loud and urgent. But if it never stops ringing, even when there's no fire, you don't feel safer. You just go deaf to everything else. Let's get interactive, right now. Pause, close your eyes for 5 seconds. Try to name 3 emotions you felt in the last week. Don't edit, don't judge. Just notice. If you can't name them or you go blank, that's not because you're emotionless. That's the sign of chronic self-blocking. The emotional off switch has stuck in the closed position. So what are the top 3 physical signs you have repressed emotions? Let's get real, because you might not connect these dots otherwise. First, mysterious aches and pains, especially headaches, jaw tension, back or stomach pain, without a clear medical cause. If you keep throwing your back out or get sick after socializing, check in with your feelings before consulting a doctor. Your body might be screaming what your mind refuses to whisper. Second, persistent fatigue that doesn't improve with rest. You sleep 8 hours and wake up exhausted. You take a vacation and come back more tired than before. It's not about willpower. The act of holding everything in is physically exhausting. Think of it as emotional labor no one sees, no one thanks you for, and that never ever stops. Third, emotional outbursts or shutdowns that feel out of character. Ever explode over a tiny slight, or completely freeze instead of defending yourself. That's the pressure of unspoken emotion looking for any escape. It's like a dam with cracks. The water will find a way out, whether you plan for it or not. Here's what most people don't realize. These symptoms aren't separate problems. They're all connected. They're all your body's way of trying to get your attention, trying to tell you something needs to change. Ignoring them doesn't make you strong, it makes you fragile. What about relationships? Emotional repression destroys connection more than any argument ever could. When you don't allow yourself to feel, you become emotionally absent, even to yourself. Caring for others becomes performance, not true intimacy. You go through the motions, say the right words, but there's a wall nobody can name but everyone can feel. Look at Mark. He never showed anger. His parents punished it. As an adult, he let his partner and co-workers walk all over him. No boundaries, no voice. Eventually, that hidden bitterness gave way to isolation. He felt invisible and angry, but only at himself. When Mark learned to set boundaries by starting with small no's and I statements, such as "I'm uncomfortable when this happens," his relationships changed. Not overnight, old habits cling stubbornly, but with practice, closeness came back. His partner told him later, "For the first time, I feel like I'm talking to the real you." And here's an interactive moment. Reflect on the last argument or disagreement with someone close. Were you honest about what you were feeling, or did you hide it to keep the peace? What would happen if you tried naming, not blaming next time? Instead of saying, "You make me so angry," try, "I feel angry when this happens, and I need to talk about it." Notice the difference? One attacks, one invites conversation. The people who love you don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be real. And being real means letting them see when you're struggling, when you're scared, when you need help. That's not a weakness, that's trust. That's intimacy. That's what makes relationships last. Then, some of you may wonder, isn't feeling everything dangerous? Won't you become a mess or get stuck or get manipulated? It's a fair worry. Here's the messy truth therapists rarely say out loud. There is such a thing as too much processing. Sometimes digging for every old wound makes people more anxious, more lost in the past, more convinced they're broken beyond repair. Not every feeling needs to be dissected and analyzed. What's essential is, can you let your feelings pass through you, even without always understanding them? The alternative, endless running or endless ruminating, is two sides of the same trap. Running away from feelings and obsessing over feelings both keep you stuck. The healthy middle ground is acknowledgement without attachment. I feel this, I allow this, I don't have to become this. Here's another controversial take. The modern self-help industry has created a new kind of repression by telling everyone to stay positive, manifest abundance, and choose happiness. This sounds empowering, but for many people, it becomes yet another reason to hide their true feelings. Now, it's not just society telling you to be strong. It's wellness culture telling you that negative emotions are a personal failure, a sign you're not evolved enough. That's toxic. Emotions aren't good or bad. They're information. Sadness tells you something mattered. Anger tells you that a boundary has been crossed. Fear tells you to pay attention. Trying to positive think your way out of real pain doesn't heal you. It just buries the wound under prettier words. So what do you actually do? Here's a simple research-backed plan I call the integration protocol. Step 1. Notice and name without judgment. When emotion stirs, tight throat, knots in your gut, pause. Silently acknowledge, I feel something. Maybe it's fear or sadness. Don't rush to fix or hide it. Just let it exist for 10 seconds. That's it. 10 seconds of honest acknowledgement can start rewiring years of conditioning. Step 2. Get curious. Instead of asking, why am I so weak? Try, what is this feeling telling me? Is anger pointing at a crossed boundary? Is sadness showing you what still matters? Is fear highlighting where you need support or where growth is calling you? Treat your emotions like messengers, not enemies. Step 3. Express safely. Journal your thoughts without editing. Write as nobody will ever read it. Speak one truth a day, even just to yourself, or record a voice memo. For those feelings too deep or complicated to name, move your body. Walk, dance, stretch. Let music carry the mood. Emotions are energy meant to move, not to rot inside. When you move your body, you give trapped emotion a way out. Step 4. Reach out, tell a friend, a therapist, even a stranger in an online support group. I'm struggling with something. You're not asking for a solution. You're not dumping your problems. You're just making space for truth to exist outside your own head. Sometimes the simple act of saying something out loud takes away half its power. Here's your interaction checkpoint. After this video, speak one honest feeling out loud, even if it's just to your reflection in the mirror. That single act of honesty has the power to break a 10-year-old cycle 10 years old. Try it. What's the worst that happens? You feel awkward for 5 seconds? That's nothing compared to carrying that weight for another decade. Let's wrap with one last story. Ella lived her whole 20s suppressing heartbreak. She prided herself on being unbothered. On the outside, she looked perfect. She had a good job, an active social life, and always smiled. Internally, she grew numb, forgetting how to be moved by music, films, even friends' laughter. When she started, slowly, gently, sharing her grief about a college relationship that ended badly, color returned to her world. She described the first time she felt real joy again as like breathing fresh air after years underground. Ella told me something I'll never forget. She said, "I thought if I let myself feel the sadness, I'd drown in it forever. But when I finally did, it lasted about 3 minutes. 3 minutes of real crying, and then it started to lift. I'd been running from 3 minutes of pain for 8 years." Here's the controversial takeaway. Mainstream self-help teaches you to move on, stay positive, think happy. That advice, while well-intended, becomes toxic when you use it to skip over necessary pain. For some people, chasing constant happiness is itself the most dangerous repression, because you can't selectively numb. When you shut down pain, you also shut down joy. Remember this shareable moment. You cannot selectively numb. When you shut down pain, you shut down joy too. If you've made it this far, you've already done the hardest part, facing what you want to avoid. That's not a weakness. That's the ultimate act of courage. So next time you say, "I'm fine" when you're not, pause, breathe, and let your truth live for 1 more second than you normally would. Just 1 second longer. That's how change starts. Now, here's your final interactive challenge. Drop a comment with the emotion you most often hide. You don't have to explain it. Just name it. Anger, sadness, fear, loneliness, whatever it is. That small bit of sharing could be the first domino for someone else's healing, and yours. When you see others naming their hidden emotions in the comments, you'll realize you're not alone. That realization alone can be healing. And Mikey, if you're ready to delve deeper, don't just watch and scroll. Subscribe for the next video, where I'll reveal the #1 childhood experience that teaches us to repress, and what you can do to change that story, not just for yourself, but for the next generation. Because this doesn't have to be how it is forever. Life is not about hiding. Life is about finally letting yourself feel. That's where strength, healing, and true freedom begin. Stop running. Start feeling. Your life is waiting on the other side.